everybody? Thank you for clicking on this video. We're going to be starting off the Week 10 fantasy football rankings with running backs today. Really quickly though, before we get into that, I just want to say thank you guys. I just hit 100 subscribers on this channel, which to me is pretty crazy. I mean, it might not seem like a lot to anyone out there watching, but to me, it's been really cool seeing some growth over the short amount of time that I've been doing this. I just started in the off season, so it's been just a couple months of making content. It's my first time making any type of content, and seeing growth and feedback and people actually asking questions has been really cool. So I just want to say thank you guys. It's been a massive learning curve for myself, but it's been really fun doing so, and I hope that I can keep doing it. So now we're on the road to 1,000. All right, let's get it. Anyways, with that out of the way, we can get into the actual rankings now. So obviously got to mention who's on bye first. We got the Bengals on bye, the Patriots on bye, the Ravens on bye, and the Jets on bye. So no Joe Mixon, no Ramondre Stevenson, Gus Edwards, Michael Carter, and James Robinson. Starting off with the actual rankings, we're going to have Christian McCaffrey first, now on the Niners, going up against the LA Chargers, which have been one of the best matchups for running backs this entire year. And last time we saw Christian McCaffrey before the bye, had one of the most insane games we've ever seen, had a passing, receiving, and rushing touchdown. And he got basically his full workload. So if he's going to get the same workload or close to the same workload that he got in Carolina in this Niners offense, I think he could be the clear running back one the rest of the season. Regardless, he's going to be a top 3 play every single week. And after him, we're going to have Saquon Barkley, who's going up against Houston. Another one of the easiest matchups for one of the best running backs in the league right now. You could have either of these guys as the number 1 overall running back. Regardless, it doesn't really matter because they're both studs and absolute great matchups. So you're going to play them in any matchup, but just the bonus of having great matchup for both these guys is awesome. And in my running back 3, still in the same tier, kind of a different scenario where you have Austin Eckler going up against the San Francisco 49ers on the other side of the ball from CMC. Eckler has been absolutely amazing, kind of the only thing keeping this offense alive. Though the Niners are one of the toughest matchups in the entire league, they're actually the second toughest over the past 4 weeks. Regardless though, Eckler is a kind of matchup proof person. Doesn't really matter because he's used all over the field and he's a great talent. So I have him here in my running back 3. The matchup is really why I have him here at 3 instead of 1 or 2, like I talked about, but no matter what, going to be a tier 1 running back. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier is going to be Derrick Henry, my running back 4. They're going up against the Denver Broncos, which has been a really good defense this year, but they've actually been really bad against running backs. Over the past 4 weeks, they've given up the 4th most points to running backs. And Derrick Henry can, take advantage of any matchup. So a game where he has a great matchup, he's just going to dominate even more. And we don't know exactly if Malik Willis will still be the quarterback. It doesn't really matter because they're going to give him the ball pretty much as he can handle. And I got him here, my running back 4 is the last guy in tier 1. Now moving on to tier 2, at my running back 5, I'm going to have Travis Etienne going up against Kansas City. Pretty easy matchup, but not the easiest. And over the past 3 weeks, he's been absolutely dominant, has scored 18, 23, and 25 points in those past 3 weeks. And I think that he is just going to continue to dominate. It's going to be great for fantasy. He's probably around, top 7 at worst running back rest of the season. So I think you're going to have to keep playing him no matter what the matchup is. And in a pretty decent matchup in what should be a high scoring game, I think he's going to be great. So play him wherever you got him. After him, I'm going to have Nick Chubb, who's coming off a bye. The Browns are going up against the Dolphins, so pretty easy matchup as well. Although the Miami Dolphins have been relatively decent against the run, this offense really goes through the run, and Nick Chubb is kind of someone, even though he's not really catching the ball, he's still going to be matchup proof because he's just probably the best pure rusher in the NFL. But again, since Kareem Hunt didn't get it traded and he doesn't really catch passes, it's hard for him to be a top elite running back every single week, but he can obviously finish as a running back 1 any single week. After Chubb, I'm going to have Walker going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who they've still been a good defense against the run at least, but still nowhere near what they were last year. You can definitely still run on them. Over the past 4 weeks, they're the 10th hardest team to run on, so definitely still a tough matchup. And since he's taken over from Rashad Penny, he's been absolutely dominant. He's looks like one of the best running backs in the NFL. Went for 26, 109, and 2 touchdowns last week. And they said that they're still getting him more and more integrated. So it's hard to say that it could be better, but he's just somebody that you're going to be playing as an elite running back no matter what the matchup is. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier is Josh Jacobs. He has definitely cooled off since he went completely scorched earth against everybody. But last week, he still scored 10 fantasy points in half PPR, was on field for 70% of the snap. So I'm not too worried about his usage. Going up against Indiana, though, not a really tough matchup. Definitely not like an easy matchup though. Pretty middle of the pack. Given what we've seen from him this year and the way that he's still getting utilized, he should be right around here every single week, but it's definitely going to vary match to matchup. He's always had a real weird correlation where when they win games, he does really good. Only seen one game this year where he's done really good and they lost. Regardless though, I think he's going to be a top 10 running back every single week. Now moving on to my tier 3, I'm going to have Alvin Kamara first. Going up against Pittsburgh, another pretty middle of the road matchup for running backs. And Kamara definitely struggled a bit last week. week against the Ravens. The whole team struggled, but he still saw 88% of the snaps. So I'm not too worried about him being, any lower than where he already was. But where we are ranking him was right around here, given that we've seen him be down a couple times this year, especially to start off the year. So it's hard to imagine him being up in the upper echelon of these running backs, but I still think he's going to be a low-end running back 1 the rest of the season. Now, another guy that's in a very similar scenario is going to be Dalvin Cook. He was pretty bad last week up until he had that touchdown at the very end of the game. And they're going up against Buffalo, which is a tough matchup everywhere. He's still on field for 80+% in the snap every single week, and we've still seen him be really good. Probably not quite the same explosiveness that he has been in the past years, but he's still the clear lead running back in this great offense. Last week against Washington too is actually a really tough matchup, so there is some understandability there, but he's not the same matchup proof guy that he was in the previous years, but still going to be kind of similar like I talked about with Kamara, going to be a low-end running back 1 just given his usage. Kamara definitely has more guaranteed receiving work, which is why I'm going to put him ahead, but pretty interchangeable with those two guys. After Cook, I'm going to have Dameon Pierce. They're going up against the New York Giants, which, another tough matchup. We saw him get 27 carries though last week. No targets or no receptions, which is definitely a bummer to see. But that was the first time that he's done that all year, so I don't think that's going to be continuing going forward. And he's just so good. 27 carries and he averaged 5 yards a carry. It's awesome to see against a tough Philadelphia team too. So I'm feeling pretty good about him. Obviously, this is a really bad offense and there's no really chance of it getting much better. So it's hard for him to be a lot higher than this. If he can get more involved in the passing game and really take that part over, then he could be, but it's hard to see that completely happening given how much he's already being utilized. Regardless though, I think he's going to be a low-end running back 1 as well the rest of the season. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier is Miles Sanders going up against the Washington Commanders. Commanders are another pretty tough run matchup like I talked about with Dalvin. We saw him have a good game last week though against the Houston Texans, which is one of the easiest matchups in the league. He's definitely not a workhorse running back, but he's a clear lead back in this backfield, and this has turned into an absolutely great offense. But Jalen Hurts is always going to have the ability to steal rushing touchdowns away from him on the goal line. So it's really hard to put him much higher than this, but he looks great when he gets opportunity. Last week, he was on the field for 65% of snaps, the week before 55. He's also scored touchdowns in the last 3 games, so that's really great to see. Like I said though, tough matchup against Washington, but this is a really good offense, so he's going to have opportunity every single week and probably going to be your lineup no matter what. Now moving on to my running back 13 in tier 4, I'm going to have Aaron Jones. He struggled last week, but that's kind of the story you get with Aaron Jones. You're going to have these massive blow-up games, and then you're going to have other weeks where he struggled. Overall though, the Packers offense looks really bad, which is definitely worrisome to see. He doesn't look bad though at all. He's like one of the few bright spots in this offense. And every time they give him the work, he's absolutely great. And last week they just weren't utilizing him and everything was struggling. Doesn't really make sense to me why they keep doing that, but hopefully at some point they are able to figure that out. He also did get injured. The x-rays have come back negative, so it sounds like he's going to be all right. They also say that he's going to play this week, but definitely we still want to monitor that situation as the week goes on. If he were to miss, and obviously AJ Dillon becomes much more interesting, it's really tough to know where we would rank him just because AJ Dillon has not looked good at all this year. And an offense that isn't looking good, even if he gets all the volume, it's really hard to know what that means. He'd definitely still be like a running back 2, but how high is really hard to know. They're also going up against the Dallas Cowboys, which is one of the toughest matchups in the entire league. So there's just a lot of things to be worried about. We're just going to have to monitor the situation as the week goes on. So if you have questions about it, just drop them in the comments down below. Now, after Aaron Jones, I'm going to have Leonard Fournette, who he's been struggling pretty hard the past couple of weeks. He's still getting the targets and receptions, which is really the thing that is saving him and the thing I think we really have to keep relying on. We saw 7 targets last week, which we haven't seen that many since week 5. So it's definitely nice to see that again, and hopefully that can continue. This offense just has not been able to figure it out. I don't really know what else they can do at this point. I'm definitely worried about it. There's no other way around it. They've played a bunch of bad matchups and they've continued to struggle. They looked really good on the very last drive, and Tom Brady seemed pretty juiced after that. Hopefully that can spark something, but until we see it, it's hard to project much higher. He's still getting the majority of the snaps, but nowhere near where he was at the start of the season. He only saw 62% of the snaps last week, so he's definitely going down and down. We'll see if Rachaad White gets more involved, because that's really what we're looking at, but he hasn't been unbelievable either, but they might just want to switch it up. We're going to have to see, but for right now, I got him ranked right here in my running back 14. Now, after Fournette, we're going to have Cordero Patterson. He had his comeback last week, and I wasn't really sure how much he'd be utilized after coming off of a long injury, but he absolutely balled out and had 2 touchdowns, so that was fantastic to see. Going up against Carolina this week too should be a really good matchup, and I'm sure that he's just going to get more and more utilized since he's coming back from injury. So if you got him, I would definitely be starting him. You could even put him over these guys. I can understand that too, but I think he's definitely in this tier 4 here. And after him, we're going to have Jonathan Taylor. This is a really hard person to rank, obviously, just because we have no idea if he's even going to play. He didn't play last week. If he doesn't play, then obviously Deion Jackson would be next up, but he also got hurt, so we got to monitor that situation. They're going up against the Las Vegas Raiders, which is a great matchup, so we really hope that he can play. But this offense has looked terrible. They just fired their head coach and hired a head coach that has no coaching experience ever in college or the NFL. We don't know if they're going to stick with Sam Ehlinger or if they're going to go back to Matt Ryan. We really don't know what's going on there, so it's really hard to rank him any higher. You could even put him lower. I think though, if he does play and he is healthy, he's probably going to be in your lineup because they just need anything to get going on offense, and he's one of the people that really could, but he's not going to fix this offense, that's for sure. So we're just going to see if he plays. Even if he plays, I might not want to play him, but if they say he's fully healthy and then Matt Ryan also is playing, then definitely would be a little bit more intrigued, but it's just another situation that we're going to have to monitor as the week goes on. And the last guy I'm going to have in this tier is Jamal Williams. DeAndre Swift is just obviously not 100% healthy yet, and he even said that he might not be 100% healthy this entire year. So Jamal is going to keep getting a ton of work. He had 24 carries last week, which is just, you love to see that from your running back. He's leading the league in touchdowns. They're also going up against the Chicago Bears, which is one of the easiest matchups for running backs. So until DeAndre Swift gets fully healthy and he is taking over that backfield, which I honestly don't really expect that to happen this year at this point, Jamal Williams is definitely going to be fantasy viable. And right now he's a clear lead running back in this offense, and it's a good offense. So I think that you kind of just got to keep playing him until we see something else. So yeah, here we go. I got him here ranked at my running back 17 this week. Next up in my running back 18, I'm going to have Deonta Foreman. He definitely struggled last week, but that was just an absolute blowout. And then they brought Baker in, but they say PJ Walker's going to start again. So who really knows what's going on here, but he definitely struggled a lot last week. They are playing Atlanta though again this week, which he absolutely dominated 2 weeks ago. He went for 26 yards, 118 carries, and 3 touchdowns. Now, obviously I'm not projecting that again, or he be my running back 1, but I do think that it's going to be a lot closer game where he'll be utilized a lot more. We also need to see if Chuba Hubbard's going to play. He hasn't played the past couple weeks, so not really sure about that. Regardless, though, I think Foreman's still going to be the clear lead back. They just kind of pulled the whole offense, so we only played 43% of the snaps last week. I still think, though, that he's a good option this week again, so I'm playing him where I have him, but definitely tempering my expectations from where they were a couple weeks ago. Now, after Foreman, I'm going to have DeAndre Swift. Like I talked about with Jamal Williams, he is just not healthy, so he's not getting the work, and he's just really not the same guy at all right now. But he is still really explosive, although not what we're used to with him. And he got tackled on the 1-yard line, almost had a touchdown to kind of save his day last week. Against Chicago, too, one of the best matchups for running backs. The coaching staff has also talked about wanting to get him more touches this week, so hopefully we see at least a little bit more than what we saw last week. So I still think that he's in that low-end running back 2 conversation, but I definitely understand the hesitancy if you have him and playing him. I'm probably playing him in the places that I got him, but we'll just have to see as the week progresses what they say about it. Now, after him, I'm going to have Najee Harris, who's going up against the Saints, who the Saints have actually been a pretty easy matchup across the board, so this should be a decent opportunity for Najee to show if he can still have some fantasy relevance. They're coming off a bye week, so another week for him to get fully healthy and hopefully get some more opportunities for him. If you look into the advanced metrics of it too, like people have talked about Jaylen Warren taking over, but when they have the same type of opportunity this year, Najee has actually been better. The offense overall just has struggled a lot so far. They can't block anyone, but Najee definitely has blame too. He's missed a lot of reads, a lot of holes, hasn't looked like the same person from last year. I'm hoping the bye week helped fix some problems, so we'll definitely see. It's a good matchup, so they're definitely gonna have an opportunity this week. I got him here. Now the last guy that I'm gonna have in this tier is David Montgomery at my running back 21. He hasn't done much and didn't do much last week, but we kind of still see, based on the snap share, that he is still the clear lead back here. He's gone 70% snaps both the past 2 weeks. Justin Fields just kind of ran everything last week and did it all, so pretty hard for the running backs to get touches and rushing touchdowns when Justin Fields goes for over 170 yards rushing. That was an NFL record, though, so obviously that's not going to be happening every single week. And they're playing the Detroit Lions, which is one of the worst defenses in the entire league, and they're playing the Detroit Lions, which is one of the worst defenses in the league history. So great opportunity, I think, for him here, and hopefully we can see some of the old Monty. Now moving on to the next here, we're going to have Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. They're coming off of bye week, and Zeke didn't play the week before that. It does sound like he should be good to go, and they're expecting him to play. Another situation, though, that we need to monitor, because if Zeke doesn't play, then Pollard is going to be probably somewhere up around here. But it sounds like Zeke is going to play, and Jerry Jones and the coaching staff has always said when Zeke plays, they go through him. So no matter how good Pollard looks, Zeke is still going to be the lead back here. But that doesn't mean Pollard is not fantasy relevant. I think that they're going to both be utilized a ton in this offense now. And Pollard, I just imagine, will be getting more and more snaps, even if Zeke still is leading it. It's going to be a lot closer to 50-50, I would imagine, or like a 60-40. But Pollard always has a great chance to break a massive play. And they're going up against Green Bay, which is a really easy rush defense. So they should both have opportunity here. I would still probably play Zeke over Pollard if I had both of them and Zeke is playing. But if you want to flex Pollard, then go for it, because I still think that he's a really good option. And obviously, like I said, Zeke doesn't play, Pollard, top 10, top 5 running back. After them, I'm going to have Raheem Mostert. This is the first week that we got to see Jeff Wilson and him play together. It was pretty much a 50-50 timeshare. Raheem got the touchdown, which is good for him, but it seems like this is going to be the thing going forward. Jeff Wilson was also a little bit more involved in the passing game, so we're definitely going to have to monitor that going forward, because there's definitely the chance that Jeff Wilson takes over to be the more valuable back for fantasy based off of that. But for right now, I'm still going to have Mostert ranked ahead, just given he's been a part of the system and knows his coaching staff and knows his team a little bit better at right now. But I think that they're both going to be fantasy relevant. We're going to talk about Jeff Wilson in just a second. Now, after Raheem, I'm going to have Antonio Gibson. Since Brian Robinson has taken over and he's kind of been the secondary back, he's honestly been a lot better, which is funny. Also sounds like JD McKissick is going to be hurt, so he could be out for a while. And if that's the case, then that's even better for Gibson, because he can get most of the receiving work. They're going up against Philadelphia, though, which is definitely a tough matchup, but it sounds like JD McKissick is going to be out, so he should be utilized a lot in the receiving game. So even though it's been such a roller coaster with Gibson this year, I would probably play him this week if I got him. Should be a good flex option for your lineup. And the last person I'm going to have in this tier, my running back 26, is going to be James Conner. Going up against LA Rams, really tough matchup, and this was his first week back this past week from his injury, but he actually looked pretty good. Got 70% of the snaps, so that's great to see. Yeah, he averaged 6.4 yards a carry, so I think that he's going to get more integrated into this offense and should be pretty solid for fantasy. The offense overall is a lot better too since D-Hop has been back, so that's going to be more goal line opportunities for Conner, so should be a pretty solid option for everyone's lineup going forward. Definitely going to temper expectations this week because they're playing the Rams, but after that should be pretty solid. Now, moving on to the last tier, we're going to have Jeff Wilson here to start it off. Like I talked about with Raheem, pretty much a 50-50 timeshare. Raheem just got the touchdown this week. That could be pretty common with these guys going forward. Whoever gets a touchdown, you're going to be more happy you played. But I thought Jeff Wilson looked really good last week, and this is a great offense going up against Cleveland this week, which is one of the best defenses for running backs. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for both these guys here. Someone will probably get in the end zone, and whichever one that is going to be probably the better option for fantasy. But I think they're both viable options for your lineup if you got them. Now, after him, I'm going to have Devin Singletary, which I don't know what people think, but it could be a little bit lower than what some think. First off, they're playing the Minnesota Vikings, which is one of the toughest run defenses in the NFL. Over the past 4 weeks, they've actually given up the least amount of points to running backs. He also hasn't been very good the past couple of weeks. James Cook was the one that came out to start the game, and they also traded for Naheem Hines, so just more competition. But if the offense isn't as good with Josh Allen hurt, then that's going to be pretty worrisome for Devin Singletary. So I'm pretty low on him this week, but I think you still could have to play him if you got him, just given the kind of the landscape of running backs. Just given all those things into consideration, I'm going to be a little bit lower on Devin Singletary, and I got him here ranked my running back 28 this week. Then after him, I'm going to have Khalil Herbert, my running back 29, going up against the Detroit Lions. Although he's looked so good pretty much every time he's gotten the ball, he doesn't seem to be taking this role away from David Montgomery. He doesn't play on that many snaps, but when he's in the game, they tend to give him the ball almost all the time. He's also not very involved in the passing game. That's definitely more David Montgomery. So it's hard for him to be much higher, and doesn't seem like he's actually going to take this role over from him. But this offense has really turned itself around, and he's really talented and can kind of break plays whenever. We're also going up against Detroit Lions this week, which is, like I talked about with Monty, one of the easiest matchups for running backs. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him here, and always has a chance to score a touchdown, just given how talented he is. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier and in my top 30 is going to be Kareem Hunt, one of the prime candidates to get traded, but ended up not getting traded. He saw 15 opportunities in that last week, although that could have been because they were trying to showcase him to trade him. Regardless though, he's really talented and has been pretty utilized this year. Kind of fell off a little bit in the mid weeks, but seemed to be more utilized the past couple. Against Miami too, pretty good matchup, so should have some opportunity here. Although I'm definitely not excited to play him, but we'll always have an opportunity to score touchdowns. There we have it though. That's my top 30 running backs for week 10 of fantasy football. If you got any questions about them, any any start sit questions, drop them in the comments down below. Make sure you drop a like on this video. It helps out a ton. Subscribe to the channel. Got content coming all year. Wide receiver rankings should be dropping pretty soon, so stay tuned for those, and I will see y'all there.